And here's my tip. I don't like seeing the screen of myself when I speak. I find it to be a distraction. So you can always minimize that, just FYI. That took me a couple events to know that. So just FYI, in case it's a distraction for you as well. I have 4:30 on the dot. We have quite a few in the waiting room. Do you guys want to get started? Okay, sounds good. Brandon, do you want to?
Okay, I'll open up the waiting room and start the live stream.
Thank you. Hello, welcome. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was a little bit glitchy there for a minute, so I just wanted to make sure. Welcome. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm good now. All right. Thank you again for joining us. Welcome. Happy Women's Equality Day. Today marks the 100th anniversary of when the 19th Amendment to the US Constitution was adopted, granting many American women the right to vote. Today is a toast to tenacity as we join groups across the country, including Vision 2020, a national women's equality coalition headquartered at Drexel, who are also raising a glass in a united salute to those who work so hard to make women's rights to vote a reality. So get your coffee, tea, wine, grape juice, or whatever your beverage of choice may be, and get comfortable around our table, because it is a momentous day to share. So before we go further, just a few housekeeping notes. All attendees are muted until the breakout sessions. However, we encourage you to interact and engage in a few ways. Drop your comments in the chat box, post a pic or a selfie, or share what you are hearing via social media. You can use the hashtag #ToastToTenacity and tag CC Women and Girls so we can share. The program is also being streamed live on Facebook, so go ahead and hop on Facebook and share it. And hopefully you guys also got the toolkit ahead of time, and maybe some of you have printed out some of the cool buttons that were in the toolkit as a way to get festive and celebrate. So also, when you list your name in the Zoom, please feel free to include the name of the organization, the company, or the group you are representing. This, of course, is a suggestion just to encourage ways to connect, not a requirement. We will have our lineup of guests, and then, of course, our toast to tenacity. Around 5:15, we will move to breakout networking groups, and we will reconvene as a large group after, and the session will end at 5:30. Around our table today, Women's Equality Day, though we are celebrating, we are also acknowledging that inequities were real and are still real. Women of color did not have the right to vote until long after 1920, even as they worked hard to secure voting rights for their white counterparts. Our groundbreaking blueprint report, which is our comprehensive study about the needs of women and girls at the local, state, and national levels, is clear about how women and girls still face harassment and violence. They are not equally represented in power positions. They face unique economic challenges, including lower wages, and they lack equitable healthcare. I encourage you to go on our website to take a look at the blueprint report if you're not familiar with it already. Addressing these disparities drives the Chester County Fund for Women and Girls, and we're doing that through raising up young female leaders. We're investing in local organizations addressing the needs of women and girls. We are amplifying the voices of all women through our advocacy and community education. and through playing our part to ensure women are able to exercise their right to vote. As some of you already know, I am the mother of 5 girls. In the very early years as a family of 7, there weren't many places that my husband and I were willing to take our whole crew. It was always just such a big ordeal. However, one place that was worth the trip, despite all the effort, was our voting poll. Maeve, do you mind sharing the picture? So hopefully you guys are seeing that. Here we are, a few years ago, proudly donning our I voted stickers. When I go to the poll, I think about the early suffragists and those who come after, who worked so hard to bring us this right. And I think about my mother, who came to the States from the Philippines for her medical residency. She exercised her right for the first time in 1977, 3 years before I was born, but she was already a resident of our country for 13 years and already the mother of 5 citizen children and wife to my father, a Navy man who also came over from the Philippines in the 60s to serve. I vote for all of them, and I vote for my girls so they can understand how important it is to share in this legacy too. Thanks, Maeve. I'm now pleased to introduce our co-host for this event, the Chester County Women's Commission. I'm a proud member of this inspiring group of women focused on empowering, connecting, and advocating for the needs of all women in Chester County. At the helm of the commission is our fearless leader, Dr. Jahnavi Rao. When not wearing her commission hat, she takes on many other roles in the community, including assistant principal at Valley Forge Middle School, visual arts curriculum supervisor for the Tredyffrin Easttown School District, chair to the Chester County Advisory Board of Big Brothers Big Sisters, member of the Junior League of Philadelphia, the Westchester NAACP, United Methodist Church of Westchester, and the Rose Tree Pops Orchestra. What a list, Jackie. Thanks so much for all of you and for making the time to plan this event and celebrate with us today.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Can you all hear me? Great. Thank you so much to Michelle and Maeve and Dana and Brandon and the whole team at Chester County Fund for Women and Girls for all their work in putting together today's celebration. And the Chester County Women's Commission is thrilled to be a part. As Michelle said, I'm Dr. Jacqueline Hickey Rathera, and I'm serving as the president of the Chester County Women's Commission this year. Our mission is to identify and advance the diverse needs and interests of women in Chester County, to empower them to reach their potential personally and professionally, and to serve as an advocate to the Chester County Board of Commissioners. This year, we have reaffirmed our commitment to the women of Chester County by advocating for providing safe workplaces for all, advancing actions against racism and sexism in our community, and celebrating the strengths and accomplishments of women. This centennial recognition of the women's right to vote marks just the opening act of the full fight for women's rights to vote and for all Americans. This fight continued after 1920 with expanded voting access legislation in 1947, 1952, and 1965, and is continuing today, especially with today's featured speakers. They are committed to protecting, preserving, and promoting the right and opportunity to vote. I know that we'll be inspired by their messages and by their ongoing work towards equality. Thank you, welcome, and let's celebrate.
Thank you so much, Jackie. We are now pleased to share greetings from Pennsylvania's Secretary of State, Kathy Boockvar. In 2019, Kathy was appointed by Governor Wolf to lead the department, which, among other objectives, aims to promote the integrity of the electoral process. Kathy is an attorney with an extensive background in public interest law and policy, election administration, and nonprofit healthcare administration. If you've heard her speak before, like at our panel discussion called Know Before You Go, back in 2016, prior to Election Day, and that program was to help inform and inspire women to exercise their right to vote. If you heard Kathy, you know that voting rights is a true passion of hers. More information about Kathy and all her speakers can be found in today's toolkit. I know Maeve has already placed that link in to the handout in the chat box. I'm proud to call Kathy a mentor and glad she was able to be part of our program. though she's not with us live. She's clearly been very busy ensuring we are all able to cast our votes in a safe and fair manner this fall. But the real reason she was not able to join us live is because she's moving her daughter back to college this week, which I think is awesome. Family before everything. So with no further ado, we have Kathy.
Hi everyone, and thanks so much to the Chester County Fund for Women and Girls and Vision 2020 for all you do to empower women and girls. On this, the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, I am honored as Pennsylvania Secretary of State and Chief Election Official to pay tribute to our fearless and far-sighted foremothers in this toast to their tenacity. When our great-grandmothers set out to achieve the vote for women over a century ago, they understood that, in the words of Susan B. Anthony, voting is the pivotal right, the essential ingredient and sustenance of a democracy. The suffragists labored long and hard, enduring arrests, hunger strikes, violence, and public persecution for their efforts. One of my favorite suffragists was Carrie Chapman Catt, who traveled the country advocating for women's right to vote. Carrie was so forward-looking, she even had a prenuptial agreement guaranteeing her 4 months of free time each year to work for suffrage. I'm proud to say that Pennsylvania embraced women's suffrage relatively early, becoming the 7th state to ratify the 19th Amendment just 20 days after it cleared Congress, and more than a year before the final state ratified it. Today we also remember those suffragists who did not get the credit and honor they deserved for their hard work. African American women like Philadelphia sisters Margaretta and Harriet Fortin and Pittsburgh activist Daisy Lampkin. They spoke out for suffrage while enduring the double evils of racism and sexism because they understood that from suffrage flowed equality and empowerment. American women had to wait an extraordinarily long time to vote, 144 years. But many other Americans had to wait even longer. Last year, I was honored to join my Secretary of State colleagues on a journey to Selma, Alabama, to share, witness, and try to absorb the historical landmarks that epitomize the devastating struggles and inspiring achievements of the voting rights movement. It was a humbling experience and a poignant reminder that we have been granted the opportunity and responsibility to make a difference in this world. The civil rights struggles and victories helped bring about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And 6 years later, in 1971, one of those civil rights marchers, C. Dolores Tucker of Philadelphia, became Pennsylvania Secretary of State and the first African American woman to hold this position in any state. The 19th Amendment not only gave women access to voting, it led to an acceptance of women in all aspects of public life, including elected and appointed service on the local, state, and national levels. We at the Pennsylvania Department of State believe we can best fulfill that duty and honor the sacrifices of our foremothers by ensuring that no eligible voter is ever disenfranchised, by urging all women and girls to speak their voices and lead. We need more women in leadership, not only because they are highly effective as leaders, but also as role models for our daughters and our granddaughters. And of course, we need to encourage everyone to vote. In the last 2 years, we have made tremendous strides in Pennsylvania to increase accessibility and security for all voters. We've required all counties to upgrade their voting systems to new voter verifiable paper ballot systems meeting the highest standards of accessibility and security. We passed Act 77 last year, historic bipartisan law creating more voting reforms for Pennsylvania voters than any election law passed in the last 8 decades. Thank goodness one of those provisions included the right to vote by mail without needing an excuse. The timing, of course, turned out to be critical due to COVID-19. All Pennsylvanians can now vote securely and safely from their own homes during this pandemic. Act 77 also allows in-person, early mail-in voting, which means every eligible voter can go in person to your county election office and cast your ballot weeks ahead of Election Day. We've also created the online application for mail-in ballots in Spanish, in addition to the English application in place. And voters who speak other languages may also call 877-VOTES-PA to receive other interpretive services for free. We are also providing prepaid postage so every ballot may be mailed for free. What else could you do? Because nearly 1.5 million voters took advantage of the option to vote by mail in the primary, we expect about twice as many people as that to vote by mail in the general election. So start early. Start now. Request your ballot today at votespa.com. Counties plan to start sending their ballots in September to make sure every voter gets their ballot weeks and weeks ahead of Election Day. So don't wait. Advocate for equal access to the ballot box for all eligible voters. And take it one step further and please sign up to be a poll worker. These are the champions that keep the wheel of democracy turning on Election Day. In toasting the suffragist tenacity, let us commit our own tenacity to, in Kat's words, the wrongs that need resistance, the right that needs assistance, and the future in the distance. Thank you all for continuing this legacy.
Awesome. Thanks so much to Kathy. As part of the Department of State's efforts, they teamed up with the Department of Education to offer the Governor's Civic Engagement Award, which celebrates the efforts of Pennsylvania's high schools and their students to educate, engage, and inform their fellow students about how to get involved in the voting process. Chester County is lucky enough to have two high schools that have been recognized in recent years, the Downingtown STEM Academy and Conestoga High School. Both obtained the Silver Award for registering nearly 70% of their students who are eligible to vote. Joining us today is Jahnavi Rao, a graduate of Conestoga High School who was a driving force of Conestoga's efforts when she founded the club 2018 New Voters, which registered over 85% of our eligible senior class to vote. As president, Jahnavi grew the club to a national nonprofit with 200 plus high school student leaders and over 100 college mentors, with the goal of registering 100,000 students to vote by the 2020 election. She is a rising junior at Harvard, studying government and environmental science and public policy, and serving as director of high school engagement at the Harvard Vote Challenge. She's president of the Harvard South Asian Women's Collective and an active cast member of the Harvard College Opera Society.
How you doing?
In short, I want to be when I grow up. So with no further ado, I give you Jahnavi.
What's this? Oh, it's a thing from Chester County.
Thank you to the Chester County Fund for Women and Girls and the Chester County Women's Commission for organizing this incredible event and inviting me to speak. It is an honor and nerve-wracking following the Secretary of the Commonwealth, but I will try my best. Each year, 3 million students graduate from high school. Gen Z, or 18 to 24-year-olds, will make up 10% of the voting age population in November 2020. This gives my generation an unprecedented amount of potential influence in politics. But our interests are rarely considered in the actions of the government because this age group has been one of the most underrepresented in the voting population, and politicians don't listen to those who don't vote. During the 2016 election, I was a bystander. The decisions that have been made since then affect my generation more than any other, and back then, none of us had a say. I saw an outpouring of Facebook posts from my peers on both sides of the aisle, disparaging that their interests were not being considered, all down the ticket. But when those who were eligible were asked, many of them said that they did not vote, and I could not understand why. Back then, I was 16. I couldn't vote, and I was told that there was not much I could do to affect change and the government. But I refused to let that be my reality and decided to get involved. I couldn't vote in 2016, but I could in 2018, and so could many others. So my junior year at Conestoga High School, right here in Chester County, I formed the nonpartisan high school run organization called New Voters. Our goal was to educate and empower young voters to get involved in the political process in the hopes that never again our interests would be ignored due to our lack of voting power. Some say my generation is apathetic and unengaged. A quick Google search will find countless articles saying that Gen Z is destroying the future of America. I'm here to tell you that, as a 20-year-old, my generation is not only engaged, but desperate to build a better future for ourselves. We just need to empower the young people who have historically been stripped of the opportunity to civically engage, whether it be due to legislation or lack of civic education. If we do that, incredible change can happen, just like it did my senior year of high school. In October of 2017, New Voters hosted a registration drive at my school with the goal of registering 85% of my senior class to vote. With 4 days to go, we only had 30% of eligible voters registered. That week, I saw the most incredible set of events, with dozens of volunteers reaching out to unregistered students. People waited outside sporting events, cold called houses from the phone book, walked into homerooms looking for specific people, and texted everyone they knew to reach out to unregistered students. Students I never knew walked up to ask me how they could help. We went from 30% registered 4 days prior to the deadline to 70% 3 days later. With hours to spare before the registration period ended and more texts sent out than I've ever sent in my entire life, we soared past 85% and received the Governor's Civic Engagement Award. Less than 3 years later, New Voters has accelerated and changed so dramatically, the small school club is practically unrecognizable. We have been expanding continuously, growing chapters in 200 plus schools in 38 states across the country, with over 100 trained college mentors. The New Voters team that once operated out of our social studies classroom is now comprised of over 40 full and part-time high school and college team members. High school voter participation is not a partisan issue. Even within my school's New Voters chapter, we didn't agree on everything. We came from different parties, had opposing views, and refused to budge on them. But we were united in our commitment to register our generation to vote. This commitment is also reflected in our national model, where we are working with both high school Democrats and teenage Republicans to launch nonpartisan voter registration drives across the country, further increasing our reach. These 200 schools we are working with encompass over 50,000 eligible voters, but we are not stopping here, and New Voters is going to register 100,000 students to vote by the 2020 election. Moving forward, we want to empower student leaders to register 500,000 or even 1 million students each year. My friends and I found our voices in politics where, by the laws of the Constitution, we should have had none. My peers and I did not listen when we were told to wait our turn. Instead, we took an impossible situation and we made ourselves heard. Even if you are not eligible, you can register and empower other people to vote in your school, community, and family. Chester County, now is the time to ensure that politicians never again dismiss the concerns of the youth. And we can do this by turning out to vote at unprecedented numbers and being educated on the issues at hand. My generation will vote, and we will be watching. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jahnavi. So inspiring to see you take over at such a young age. I wish that for my girls and for all the girls out there. I'd now like to introduce Susan Carty. She is the co-president of the League of Women Voters, Chester County. She's been involved with the League since 2009, leading in key roles to help the organization provide more education through public panel discussions, expand their membership to be more reflective in the community, and build more community partnerships. In the past, Susan also served as the president of the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania. She has been a wealth of knowledge and leadership, also serving on our Know Before You Go panel in 2016 with Kathy. We are pleased to welcome you again, Susan. Don't forget to unmute.
There you go. Thank you so much for that. And also, again, thank you so much as an organization in Chester County that serves such a wonderful purpose for all women and girls here. And I thank you for your recognition of one of our own and my friend, Carol Kuniholm, for her outstanding efforts and her exceptional level of persistence in pursuing fair and safe and free redistricting in Pennsylvania. Today, we voters are experiencing a little bit of a concern, though. If you've noticed, there's a sowing of doubt and contempt as well, and sometimes elements of confusion that can be a concern and a threat to our system. The power and success of our system is dependent upon the active involvement of people such as you, the voice of the people, and that calls for trust. We don't give voice if we don't trust. Loss of it is disastrous, and it does leave us vulnerable. That's actually our modern day barrier. We must never forget those brave, persistent, fully committed souls, men and women, suffragettes who stood up, who fought the battles, who pushed back on the barriers, and who risked it all for the freedom of our voices and the freedom we have today. I would like to put my friend Carol Kuniholm in that same category of people who is persistent, who has pushed back, and has did not let untruths go unnoticed. As we celebrate this anniversary, we must never forget not only the brave and persistent souls, but the fact that We needed and wanted the freedom of our voices and the freedoms that we have today, the freedom to vote. And thank you, Carol, for all that you do. And thank you, Chester County Fund for Women and Girls, for all that you do as well.
Great. Thank you, Susan. Next, it's now my pleasure to introduce Cheryl Miles, Chairwoman of Black Women of Chester County in Action, which is a grantee organization of the Fund for Women and Girls. Cheryl's also the Director of Housing Support Services at Good Samaritan Services. 4 years ago, Cheryl invited me to a gathering of 30 African American women leaders from all over Chester County to talk about our Blueprint Report. We talked about the disparities faced by women of color in Chester County, significant inequalities as it relates to health, pay, and education, just to name a few. Cheryl was a driving force in multiplying the effect of that evening by organizing and founding Black Women of Chester County in Action. Though a young organization, they have been active and passionate about supporting women of color in Chester County. In these recent months, they have been working to reach more women of color to educate them about voting and to be a lifeline, particularly through the COVID-19 pandemic. Cheryl was also our 2019 Kitchen Table Award honoree, an award we give annually to recognize a woman who has made significant contributions to improving the lives of women and girls in Chester County. As always, it is my pleasure to welcome Cheryl Miles.
Good afternoon. I bring you greetings on behalf of Good Samaritan Services, Black Women of Chester County in Action, and hashtag Our Voice Should Be Heard. Thank you to the Chester County Fund for Women and Girls and the Chester County Women's Commission for the invitation to celebrate 100 years of the women's right to vote. Each one of the organizations that I represent today serve women in our communities who have been marginalized as a result of racism, discrimination, and exploitation. They're working hard every day to obtain the elusive American dream. Their voices have been silenced by the tyranny of the moment, focusing on survival, believing that to do anything else would be a luxury. As a result, many have failed to recognize their power of their vote. So today, in my participation in this celebration is twofold: to give hope and to give heed. When women work together, things change. Through my imaginary eye, I can see Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Lucy Stone having many kitchen table conversations, discussing their plight in a man's world, recognizing that they've come a long way since the Civil War, economically and socially. They desire to protect their progress and to have control over their destiny. They realize the power is in the right to vote. Well, at the same time, on another section of town, there was a similar conversation by Black women, conversations led by Sojourner Truth, Mary Church Terrell, and Ida B. Wells. They saw a bigger picture. They not only wanted the power of the vote, they wanted the opportunity to be able to exercise their power to dismantle racism and discrimination. Their fight was for their community and for the soul of their people. History tells the story of Black and white women fought together to pass the 19th Amendment in 1920. Well, they did. However, more often Black women were in position at the end of the parade, in the back of the meeting rooms, and on the fringes of decision-making tables, experiencing the very racism and discrimination that they were fighting against. Yet, Black women, empowered by the principle of the right to vote movement, forged their own plight. Their opportunity to fully exercise their right to vote came through the Voting Right Act of 1965, which prohibit racial discrimination. Today, all women can cast their votes. All women can run for office and help create laws. In honor of today's anniversary, I ask you to do three things. I ask you to vote. I ask you to do not compromise anyone's human rights for liberty and justice, and to never ignore the rights of others for the good of a few. United we stand, divided we fall. I will vote as if my life depends on it, because it does. I encourage each woman I encounter to vote like their life depends on it, because it does. Will you do the same? Happy anniversary to the women's suffrage movement.
Amen. Thank you, Cheryl, for that. I now invite Jackie to come back on for the presentation of the Chester County Women's Commission's annual SHE-RO Award. Jackie?
Thank you, Michelle. Today, it is my honor to present the Chester County Women's Commission's second annual SHE-RO Award. This award goes to a woman who is admired or idealized for her courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities, and who supports women's rights and respects women's issues. A hero. This year, we honor Carol Kuniholm. Carol is the co-founder and chair of Fair Districts PA, which is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working on redistricting reform in Pennsylvania. She is also the vice president of the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania, serving with the government and social policy. She resides here in Exton. Carol has been called a redistricting champion and a gerrymandering slayer, as she advocates for fairly drawn voting districts in Pennsylvania, which would further ensure that every vote and voter matters. Carol is a current day voting rights advocate, and on this centennial celebration of the 19th Amendment, we recognize her as a SHE-RO and thank her for her service to the people of Chester County and Pennsylvania. Welcome, Carol, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for this honor. Thank you for this wonderful event. And thank you to all of you who have spoken and for the amazing and really, really important work that you are doing. Women's rights have been hard won, and we are not done. We know it took decades for women to win the right to vote, and we know that that right has been applied unevenly across the past century. We know that voter suppression has taken many forms, including poll taxes and discriminatory voter ID laws, long lines to register or vote, intimidation, confusion. We will be seeing that in the weeks ahead. We also know that gerrymandering has been part of voter suppression. Gerrymandering has long been an attempt to limit voters' voices and ensure power is held in the hands of a select few. When party leaders draw district lines, they protect themselves and their cronies, and they lock out new voices, new ideas, and representation that would serve the common good. Here in Pennsylvania, flagrant gerrymandering across the past half century has discouraged electoral participation and diminished choice at the polls. In the 2012, 2014, and 2016 elections, half of our PA legislative races provided no choice at all in the general election. The decision in those districts was made in the primary, or in many cases, long before the first vote was cast. What has that meant for women? Our ranking in gender parity for women in elected office hit a low in 2016. In 2016, we were ranked 49th among the 50 states for women in elected office. Only Mississippi scored lower. Our congressional districts had been finagled, and party leaders used that word. They had been finagled for party favorites on both sides, closing out new voices. Pennsylvania had no women in Congress and had never had more than 2 congresswomen. The 2018 redistricting lawsuit brought by the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania, thank you, Susan Carty, who was an active participant in that, yielded a new congressional map, more competitive elections, and for the first time ever, 4 congresswomen from Pennsylvania. But gender parity in elected office still has a long way to go in Pennsylvania. Our fabulous 4 congresswomen make up less than 1/4 of our congressional delegation. And gerrymandered state, House, and Senate districts have made it difficult for women to gain influence in Harrisburg. Just 1 in 4 PA legislators are women, and seniority rules ensure that very few women become committee chairs. This has implications far beyond what you imagine. In the 2017-2018 session, female Republican representatives had just 22 bills enacted into law. Female Democrats, 0. Of the hundreds of bills introduced by minority legislators, how many were enacted? 2. Many, many, many important bills are never given a vote in committee, never even given a hearing in committee, because the committee chairs are not interested and they don't need to be interested. They are the ones in the most gerrymandered, most safe districts, and do not reflect the interests of the people of Pennsylvania. The same people who draw the maps are the ones who set the agendas, are the ones who block reform, and are the ones who decide how budgets are spent. Fair Districts PA has held over 900 public meetings in the past 4 years to help citizens understand why voting districts matter, but also to help people understand how our legislature works. We have teams of volunteers digging into legislative records to connect the dots between gerrymandered districts and the rules that put power in the hands of just a few leaders. There are reasons why policies supported by a large majority of Pennsylvanians are never given a vote. And there are reasons why the loudest voices in Harrisburg do not reflect the concerns of the average PA citizen. And there are reasons why more than a dozen important bills to reform police brutality have not even been given a hearing in committee. And there are reasons why we still have the lowest minimum wage in our surrounding region. We as Pennsylvanians need to understand those reasons, and we need to help promote real reform so that our voices can be heard. The next redistricting will be done in 2021 after the current census. Those maps will shape our elections for the next decade, and by implication, they will shape our state legislature, our state policies, and our state budget. Voting matters a lot, but the structures and systems of our elections and our government also matter. Those can decide whose vote counts, whose voice is heard, whose ideas are enacted into law, and whose concerns are ignored completely. You can learn more about that at our website, fairdistrictspa.com, and we have speakers who would love to speak to your organizations. The more we understand, the more powerful we become. And women realize that very early on, which is why they formed the League of Women Voters the same year that women won the vote, so that women could educate women on the issues that mattered and help them to gain power through the vote, but also through understanding the systems that were behind the vote. Remember, the gains are hard won and the work is not done. Thank you so much for the work you do on behalf of the women and girls in Pennsylvania and in Chester County. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol, for your inspiring and encouraging words. At this time, I would like to recognize and introduce Chester County Commissioner Marian Moskowitz and thank her for attending today. Commissioner, are you there?
I am. Thank you very much.
Hi.
It's nice to be with you all. I mean, you're all such a powerful force, and getting together, you could do some really nice, good damage. But Carol is so inspirational, and I'm so grateful for Carol. She always has a seat at the table, and she is a force, clearly, to be reckoned with. And, you know, to move the women's rights and the women's power forward and have fair districts is a big undertaking, and I am so personally grateful. And I'd like to present a citation on behalf of the 3 commissioners of Chester County. Am I able to read it? Do I have time, do you think? Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna go for it. So, the Board of Commissioners of the County of Chester recognizes Dr. Carol Kuniholm as a recipient of the Chester County's Women Commission Shiro Award. It is presented to a woman admired or idolized for her courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities, and who supports women's rights and respects women's issues, a true hero. Co-founder and chair of Fair Districts PA, a nonpartisan grassroots organization working on redistricting reform in Pennsylvania. Carol also serves as Vice President of Governmental and Social Policy on board of the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania. She earned a PhD, this is on her spare time, in American Literature from the University of Pennsylvania and has worked for over a decade as a youth pastor at the Church of the Good Samaritan in Paoli. The Board of Commissioners of the County of Chester, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, thanks you for your immense efforts to make voting fair and accessible for all, and congratulate you on receiving the Chester County Woman Most Deserving honor, signed by all 3 commissioners, me, Commissioner Maxwell, and Commissioner Kickline. So thank you so much for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you so much for that.
Congratulations. Thank you so much to the commissioners. We really appreciate that. I would also like to take a moment to recognize and introduce Pennsylvania State Senator Katie Muth. Is the senator here?
Yep, I am here. Thank you, Jackie.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this very good ending to my day of fighting the battle, and no one knows it better than Carol. And the dome of corruption is what I call it, is where I work when we're in session. And it always is an uplifting moment of encouragement to see another warrior woman in the hallway, going from floor to floor, door to door, demanding, even if it's just a few brief moments of some really entitled and powerful men time to make the case for democracy and make the case for we the people having a genuine voice, and how who gets to elect, who gets to represent us, right? And so knowing that Carol has trudged through this, she's got to be one of the best grassroots organizers. The power they've yielded, the momentum, be able to cover all the polling locations, even on election days. Your work has not gone unnoticed, and you've become quite the hero in the Capitol, advocating for something that unfortunately we just keep having to fight for. So I remain hopeful, but I can't express my gratitude personally and both professionally for all of your hard work. And there's going to be a citation mailed to your house. Probably you should get it, well, with the Postal Service, I don't know, but you should get it soon. We should have FedExed it, I guess. I should have dropped it off at your house, but but you will get it soon so that you can have it. But it is on behalf of all of the senators in the General Assembly that represent Chester County. So it's not just me presenting this award, but it's from all of us who genuinely appreciate all of your hard work. And hopefully we get to celebrate some big victories in the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. Appreciate you being here today and for all your support. Michelle?
Great, thank you. And congratulations again, Carol. Clearly well deserved. We thank you so much for all your amazing work. As we approach our toast, we first want to recognize our elected officials who have been advocates for the right to vote. Today, we are honored to have 10 local elected officials joining us. Of course, you have heard from County Commissioner Marian Moskowitz, as well as State Senator Katie Muth. We also have Commissioners Michelle Kickline, Josh Maxwell, State Representatives Christina Sappy, who I know just hopped off, but we had her joining us, Carolyn Comida, Chester County Clerk of Courts Yolanda Vandekroll, Chester County Prothonotary Debbie Bookman, Chester County DA Deb Ryan, as well as a staff member from the Office of Senator Toomey, Amber Little Turner. So many others supported us through participation in our video highlighting the 19th Amendment, which we are pleased to share with you now before we get on to our toast. So Maeve.
Of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on the account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
Hi, I'm State Representative Carolyn Comida, and I vote because as a U.S. citizen, I know this is a cherished right and responsibility, and I want to make sure that the people who are elected to serve at local, state, and federal levels share my values and are working to shape a healthy future for our children. As the League of Women Voters say, your vote is your voice. Speak up and vote.
My name is Marian Moskowitz, and I am chair of the Chester County Board of Commissioners. I vote because I want to say in who runs our federal, state, and local governments. Every vote counts.
Hi, I'm Chester County Commissioner Michelle Kickline. I vote because my parents came to this country from a country where they couldn't vote, nor could their parents. So I always want to make sure that my voice is heard.
I'm State Representative Christina Staffy, and I vote because it was ingrained in me as a child that voting is our duty as citizens in a representative democracy.
Hi, my name is Freda Maddox, and I am the Sheriff of Chester County. I vote because I understand that women didn't always have that privilege. My grandparents grew up in the Jim Crow South, and they didn't have the privilege to vote either. I vote because I understand that I would not have been elected sheriff of this county and be the first African American to serve in that position if people had not voted. Please vote.
It's Chrissy Houlihan, representative from Pennsylvania's 6th Congressional District, and I vote because I believe that my future and my happiness depends on it. I believe it's my responsibility and my privilege. I believe I owe it to the heroes who have gone before me. Your vote is your voice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. We are now pleased to welcome Judy Bell, Chair of our Board of Directors for our Toast to Tenacity. Judy has been involved with the fund since shortly after moving to Chester County in 2010. She has served in a variety of roles, including our Luncheon Chair, Development Committee Chair, Vice Chair of the Board, and of course, our current Chair. When we are not keeping her busy at the fund, she also serves as COO of People 2.0. And I must say that Judy is also one of the biggest suffrage enthusiasts that I know. So get your class ready and please welcome Judy.
Thank you, Michelle. This is quite the honor and sharing all the sentiments. So please, let's raise our glasses and join us. Determination, persistence, fortitude. Failure is impossible. We salute those characteristics and the women and men who succeeded in getting us this vote. We continue on with the same characteristics to recognize and especially exercise the power of our vote. There is nothing more powerful to make change, and all those women before us, they recognize that. And to them, we will vote and salute. Back to you, Michelle.
Cheers, everybody. Toast to you all.
Cheers.
Thank you, Judy. We will now be moving into the breakout networking groups. So this is a chance to connect and celebrate with each other. The groups are organized by topic, and your facilitator will let you know your topic once you are in the small group. So please enjoy, connect, discuss, and we'll see you back in a few minutes for our closing. words in the chat box. An email with today's toolkit and a post-event survey will hit your inbox soon. Please take a minute to complete that survey because it really helps us to keep you informed and connected to the events and programs important to women and girls in Chester County. The fund has much in store for this fall and beyond. We have our girls leadership programs, our girls advisory board, and Girl Gov Chester County, which will be starting back up in these coming weeks. We are beginning the work on our next blueprint report, and we're excited to be working with Dr. Michelle Wade and her colleagues at Westchester University. We will have our virtual Champions of Change event on October 28th, where we'll be honoring Charmaine Rochester, the CEO of Chester County Hospital, as well as CEI Investments for their commitment to helping women advance in the workplace. And finally, we will continue to recognize 2020, this milestone anniversary of the 19th Amendment, in a variety of ways, and that includes a women's suffrage mural in the heart of Westchester. So this is in partnership with the Westchester Public Arts Commission and Zucken Realty. So we're very excited about that project. So please stay connected to learn more. Maeve's putting the direct link to the survey in the chat now if you want to take care of that now. So thanks so much to all of you. Thank you to our staff, to our board, to the Women's Commission, and all who played such an important role today. Thank you for celebrating with us. And I hope you were inspired to not let the hard work of the last 100 years be in vain. We have ways to go from here, as many of our speakers said. Please do your part by voting and helping your family, your friends, your community cast their ballots as well. So thank you again for joining us. Your voice, your vote. Take care.